Adriana, how are you? Glad to see you. You made it.
I made it. That is an understatement. That's what it feels like, though.
All right, we'll get to all that in just a second. I want to give people just a couple of minutes if people are still going to come in. What this was or intended to be or intended to be for is to give you guys a little bit of an overview of the 33 Days to Pass Your Pants program. It's a program I developed, and some of you were here last night. Some of you have gone through it before. Adriana has, and that's one of the reasons she's here, is to talk about her experience a little bit. But this is a program I developed in an effort to help PA students who have been struggling to either get through their exam or with their end of rotation exams or whatever it may be in a position to pass this thing and to really build up to a position where that becomes a reality for you. It's a much different program than a lot of the things out there, substantially different than most of the things out there. And that's one of the reasons why I created it, was because I didn't want something that was going to be just the 5-day hit you with a ton of content and there you go. See ya, hope you do well. That was not my intention. I didn't want this to be like that at all. My intention was to create a system, a program that would put you in the best possible position to score the highest number of points on your exam and thereby get you a passing grade. I feel very strongly, my philosophy, my bent is very strongly to the fact that if you completed a PA program, you're in a really good position to pass this thing. And yes, more content is always helpful, but my guess is most people who sit down and take the PANCE have enough content to pass the PANCE. That's not their major factor. I've been doing this for 10 years now and hearing from a lot of people who have not passed, a lot of people who have struggled. And I would be shocked if more than, 2 or 3 of those people over the 10 years, it was a content issue. It does come up. It is a problem, but it is not, for me, the one that I see the most. The one I see the most is anxiety, test taking skills, timing skills, how to manage the exam, how to manage a 5-hour test, how to manage yourself through that whole experience, realizing this is a really high stakes exam and there's a lot that rides on it. A lot of your identity rides on it. And that's where I come from. I come from a position to help you squeeze out as many points as possible with the information that you've got. And that's not to say we're not going to take you through more information, but that's really where this program separates itself from everything else. That's really my focus throughout this thing. The backbone of this course, of this program, it's a 33-day program. The backbone of it is turned out very much to be the group setting, which I thought turned out to be fantastic. It was something that I kind of threw in as a add-on to it, but I wasn't thinking it would be as important as it was. I kind of did it thinking this would be kind of a nice feature, and it ended up being a really, really prominent feature. I provide a place for everybody to communicate throughout the program, a place for people to share ideas, to share how they handle things, to share their content and resources, frankly, and how their approaches to things. So that worked out to be really well. So that's really a big part of this program. The other main part is the daily lessons that I provide. So over the 33 days, I provide 1 lesson per day, moving you through a progression of study skills that then turn into test taking skills and walking you through how to answer questions and how to look at things a little bit differently. One of the things I talk about is we tend to get stuck, and myself included, in the idea that the way that we do things is the way everyone does things. And you find out that that's really not true, that everybody does things in a lot of different ways. And my focus is to try to get you to see multiple different ways of studying, of learning, of taking tests, so that you can choose what actually works best for you. And like I said, it's very much a progression. From day one, we start off slow, and by the end, it builds and builds and builds and builds. I was actually going back through, Adriana, like for the people who haven't shown up, was in this course previously, and we'll talk with her in just a second. I was just going back through the social platform I was working on to rebuild the new one. And it's shocking to me to go back through. I sort of put together a table of contents so that people in it can find each lesson as they want to. And that table of contents obviously grows every single day. And to look at that whole thing today, as I was pulling it actually down to start it over, was kind of shocking even to me, to see how much ground we had covered and how much we were able to do. And it was a lot of fun. And then the other component of the group and of the lessons is really an accountability part. I have a really way that I think is kind of mean to create accountability throughout the system to make people stay on task, to get moving forward. And that was another big part where the group really came into play. And I think psychologically that helped a lot of people. There were a lot of people who came to me before that group and said, hey, I loved my didactic year because I felt like I was on a team. I felt like I was part of a group. We'd go study, we would do this. And then I got to clinical year and that changed, right? You're kind of on your own as you approach each of these tests. And I had one person in particular reach out to me because she was set up all of her rotations herself all over the country, which I thought was really cool, but she also expressed that that was very isolating for her. So the group dynamic really played in for those people to feel like they were part of a team, to feel like they were part of a system working towards a goal. Now, one of the things that surprised me a little bit, though, and I know I've gotten that question over the last couple of days, is how does that work if my test isn't right at the end of this? There were a couple, when I created this program, I said, you know what, this is going to be 33 days to pass your PANCE and you'll take it the next day, not realizing that nobody does that, right? Because everyone has their own agendas. No one's listening to what I wanted. So some people did, like Adriana took it really soon after. Andy's taking it on Thursday. I found out last night. So that's exciting. And I've heard back from one or two other people. But I definitely had people who aren't taking it yet till August and September. And we went through and discovered some ways for them to handle the material and to adjust their calendars for themselves and to make all of that work. And it was, and again, that was where the group was nice because we could get more ideas than just from me. We actually talked it out and worked out some really good solutions for those people. So that's why when people ask that question now and say, hey, is this going to work for me if my test isn't until August or September? My answer is yes. You will miss out on a small part of the group because I think there's a part of it that really pushes towards that timeline. And if your timeline's extended, then you may be on a slightly different calendar, but there are ways we can adjust and work with that too. But the lessons that I cover, I actually think it'll give you more time to work with them and incorporate them into what you do. So it may be in some ways beneficial. So it's a little bit of both if your test is a little bit further out. And then I decided recently that I won't be offering this course again until September. It just won't be available. It's not in my capacity to do this again over the summer. It just isn't going to work out. So that'll be the next time that I have it available. And then someone just emailed me now saying, I'm taking my test in December. Well, what are you going to do about that? And I said, well, September is going to be the last time I can do this. I don't think I'm going to do it again for the rest of the year. We'll see. We'll see how it goes and how good everybody's scores come back and how motivated I am to host it again. But that's sort of my plan if you had that question. And then the last big part of this course was the live discussions. So we would do about once a week, a little bit more as time went on and we got to know people and people had more questions. I added in a couple others and we would get together once a week to discuss anything that came up during the week, from whether it be in my lessons, whether it be in something people were studying, whether they had questions on anything. And we would get together as a group and go through those. I would lead those discussions certainly and do a little bit of training on them, but they were very much question and answers. And then at the end, people had requested that we do, and I teach you how to do this throughout the lessons, but full question walkthroughs where I would actually put questions up in the setting like this and go through exactly how I would handle them. And then what was really fun for me is, again, the group says, hey, wait a minute, I like what you're doing, but I do it this way. And then we had a really good discussion. And that I think was great to show people, I think my way is the best, certainly, but Shannon may have a different idea, right? There may be other ways to do things even beyond what I'm saying. So my point is never to do exactly what I'm doing. My point is to show you there are different ways to do things to get to those conclusions. And maybe what you're doing is the best, but maybe you can add to it. Maybe there's something else that you're missing, a piece that you're missing. So that's a lot of what the course entails. So that's the basic 4 components of it. There's a little bit more that's harder to explain, and I'm not going to go into that here, but those are the general 4 components of it. There's not a lot of content that I deliver. That's not the point of this course. I feel very strongly, like I said, that you probably have enough content from your school, from the things you've done. On top of that, a lot of the people I talk to say, hey, my school offered a free 3-day review course. I had this from my school. I had that component from my school. So I didn't want to add on top of the resources you already had and start confusing things and making things more complicated. I do address that issue in the sense that I have covered the entire PANCE blueprint top to bottom almost twice now in the podcast, and that's available to everybody for free. And that's very much what I would be presenting to you if I re-recorded it and presented it here. So it seemed kind of silly for me to go on and do that. I also am going to provide everybody who becomes a member of this cohort the newest book I'm putting out, which is Wallace's Notebook, which is all of the notes from the website condensed and cleaned up and put together in a really nice format. Right now, it's in a PDF format. I'm trying to get it finished to get it into print. I was hoping to have that done. This is the whole 33 days program has taken more of my energy than I expected. So it's a little behind on that. But anybody who joins will absolutely get that also. So content is completely covered in that sense. But that's not the main focus of what I bring to this. And that's largely what I wanted to talk about as far as what the program looks like. Some people had questions about day to day and how much time things would take up or how much of your workload would go, because some people were still in school. Everyone's in a different setting. Some people were still in school. Some people were out or had not, unfortunately, not passed their exam. So their main focus was just sitting home and studying. And that puts in a different frame from each other, right? So there's a little bit of differences in how you handle the day to day. My goal of this program, or one major goal when I started this, was I did not want to interfere with your day. I did not want to create something that was going to take up a ton of your time and make you be at a scheduled event, mostly because I don't want that, right? I've got kids, I've got baseball games, I've got stuff going on where I have struggled to be at a certain time at a certain place, and then it rains and everything changes. So I thought I could be somewhere and now I can't because a game got moved or this got moved or that got moved. So I don't want to interfere with your day. So the way that this course works, the way that this program works is that the social component is always open, right? So you can always participate in there. People come, people go. The lessons that I deliver come out every morning, roughly by 8 a.m., depends on what's going on. But I think I hit that mark 95% of the time. And those lessons are somewhere between 8 and about 45 minutes, depending on what's going on. One of the really cool things, and that's allowed me to do this, is they're all delivered through the Physician Assistant Exam Review app. So it all hits your phone in the morning. You can actually do this entire course from your phone. Someone was asking me about, how much time does this take in front of a computer? And I said, well, 0. But if you want to do it that way, you certainly can. But you can listen in the car. You can listen while you jog. You can while you're doing other things. And that's one of the things that made this really appealing to me. Again, I didn't want to chain you down someplace and make you be somewhere to get through this. That being said, there are certain lessons that I would encourage you to not be driving while you're doing and actually go through in a lot of detail, or maybe listen to 2 or 3 times, because I think they're that important and that potent. But there certainly is some leeway in there. The rest of your day is, I sort of assign what content I'd like you to get through, but your day is managed by you mostly, as far as how you're going to get through that content, as far as how much you're going to do in a specific day. We'll get back together and we'll discuss it throughout, but that's largely managed by you, not by me. And I will add a little bit more component than I did last time into that, because that was a question I got more frequently, was how to manage the day-to-day stuff. So I think I will address that a little bit more strongly in this cohort than I did in the April cohort. But again, my goal is to not interfere with your studying, not interfere with your schoolwork. I don't want to add 2 or 3 hours to your day. I'm going to add, I don't know, Adriana, what do you think? Maybe half an hour to 90 minutes tops would be like a long amount of work. I definitely ask things of you, and there are activities that I want you to get done and things that if you do them, will have a tremendous impact for you over the 33 days. But like I said, I don't think that in all takes more than 30 minutes to an hour, I would guess, per day. I think is probably pretty fair. Some days shorter than that, some days longer than that. And then it depends on how you manage the stuff yourself. For those of you who come in late, if you could put your cameras on, if that's at all possible, that would really help me to maintain the energy of the group and to maintain my focus throughout this. Is a lot easier to look at faces than at blank screens. So if you could do that, that would be great. Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate that. Usually nobody responds at that point. All right. So that sort of covers my spiel on the program. It's a little tough for me to explain it. And I know it's a little tough for you guys to understand exactly what I'm doing, because it is very different than a lot of things. Last night, I didn't even know, but I had 2 people come on who were part of the April cohort. They kind of just showed up and said, hey, can we talk and share some ideas and tell people why we think they should sign up? And I said, wow, this is fantastic. Thank you. That was amazing. And they did a fantastic job, and really made my job a whole lot easier. And then Adriana here offered to do the same thing tonight. Adriana is in a special situation because of all the people in the group, she was the first one to respond to me having taken her exam after passing the program. after getting through the program. So I was really excited to bring her on as the first person who's actually taken her PANCE. So I was happy to have Andy and Dan last night, but they didn't quite. Andy's taking his test on Thursday. So as much as he's convincing and was really excited about his exam, it's a little bit more powerful to have Adriana with us tonight. So Adriana, why don't you unmute yourself?
Hello.
Hello. So can you tell us a little bit about your story, why I brought you on tonight, and your amazing news?
Yeah. So I graduated December 2021, and I took a month off to study content. And I thought I did all the right things, but like I said, it was really only studying the books. And unfortunately, I took it in February and did not pass. This was obviously heartbreaking news. And I had been listening to Brian for a really long time. It was kind of funny meeting him the first time, or like video chatting, because you're like, I listened to you on my way to rotations. But once I heard the 33 PANCE, he was thinking about doing this, I came to an info session just like this, and he kept just saying, like, this is really different than what we have out there. This is really different than your 5-day review course, whatever. And I just knew that I needed something different. So I was like, I swear my clicker, I was maybe one of the first to sign up when I knew that he was going to offer something different. And it is hard to explain what it is that's so different and to put a pulse on it. But long story short, I did the 33 days and I did it. You cannot, there's days where you can't do everything, things come up, people are in the hospital, life happens, right? But I didn't pick and choose of Brian's lessons what I wanted to do, because fun fact, I actually had listened to a lot of his podcasts beforehand. A lot of different advice, particularly the percent score, was something I had listened to and thought was, part of my language, complete BS. And I was like, I'm not doing that. That's not going to help me. But I did this course and I said, essentially, whatever he recommends, I'm going to give it my all. And I took the PANCE a week after 33 days ended. And I found out, so I took it Monday, Tuesday, I found out Friday that I passed. And not only did I pass, but I went up 107 points, which is insane. And honestly, and I was speaking with people about this, I really only studied for a month and a half, the 33 days plus a little bit more before then. You don't get 107 points in content in a month and a half. It was, for me, the lessons of mindset. It was really going through questions with Brian during the live conversations we did, and realizing that you didn't have to know the answer to everything. That was a huge mindset change to me. Because initially when I went through my PANCE, I actually didn't even finish 3 sections, because I would get caught up on thinking about a question I thought maybe I could pull from my brain if I just kept thinking about it, but I couldn't move on. And it kind of just snowballed effect from there. But the 33 days, what it did for me was it completely changed my mindset. My mom surprised me at the testing center after my first day, and I was skipping out of the testing center and all happy, which after the first time I took the PANCE, the first day I cried, literally, because I was like, that was horrible. And I was skipping out and I was like, oh, someone's family member's probably surprising them. And then she honked at me. I realized it was her. And I was like, yes, I don't know how I did, but wow, I feel completely different than the first time. And it was really, it was the lessons he had taught us throughout 33 days. So yeah.
That was Andy actually expressed that recently, that his test is on Thursday, and he said, I can't believe how calm I am. This isn't normally the way that I am. I feel like I should be freaking out, and that scares me, but I'm feeling really good. And and then I recently received an email from another member who had taken it, I think 2 days ago. I think she took it on Monday, and she emailed me afterwards saying exactly what you said. She said, I don't know what score I got, I don't know where I'm at, but thank you. This was amazing. I feel really good. Pass or fail, I feel like I did my best, which is really that's honestly my goal, is to get you to a point where pass or fail, you're bringing the best version of you. You're doing the best that you possibly can with the information that you have. Because my feeling is that most people are doing half as good as they can on test day, that they've got the information, that they're doing well, but then something happens and they sort of struggle. And that, like I said, that's a lot of what I try to produce for you, or help you produce in yourself over that time period, is ways to bring the best version of you to that day. Yeah, one of the things you touched on was getting questions right that you don't know. That's another big focus of mine. There's a lot on this test, right? There's are going to be questions that you don't know. Nobody thinks you're going to get every single one right. That's not a real thing. It's not going to happen. So I just spent a lot of time going over, one, how to handle that. But two, the phrase I use throughout the April cohort, and I will continue to use, is to tilt the odds in your favor. So it's not necessarily getting each and every question right, but it's to shift that scale to where you're getting more and more percentage-wise right, because this is a 300 question test, right? So if we're talking about a 10 question test, that wouldn't work. But if we're talking about a 300 question test, and you can shift the odds on each question from a random guess of 20% or 25% right to eliminating answers and doing a couple other things we talk about, and shift that to a 50% or 60% or 70% chance of getting it right over the course of 300 questions, you can pick up a lot of points that most people don't realize are available to you. So Adriana, can you help me out here and tell me, what was your I know you said you joined almost immediately, but what was your biggest concern when you decided to join the April cohort?
Yeah, honestly, when and you said it again tonight, but when you were like, content's not your problem, I was like, Brian, you're wrong. Like, that's great, but you're wrong. And obviously we can sit here and even after studying for, the 1 month plus the month and a half, I can sit here and study all day. We all know this. You can continue to learn. I mean, that's why we're in the medical field, right? And there were things that I picked up, the second time that I maybe didn't the first time. But my biggest questioning you was like, content's not a problem, but you're going to gain content by doing the 33 days course, because we're all going to hold each other accountable. You're going to get through whatever Brian's schedule says. If you have to change things, I mean, so many things happen during our cohort, and, really unforeseen, unfortunate things too, but you find a way to adjust, you find a way to do it. And as much as you think content may be your problem, you're going to gain those things by sticking with the schedule and holding each other accountable. But when I tell you, the biggest change was mindset. And when you have that, it's crazy to hear, but you don't need all the content. You have what you need confidence. You need to understand how to approach questions when you don't know. You need to know how to let go questions when you don't know. And that's really what makes the biggest difference. So my biggest hesitation with you was like, you're wrong. I do need content, but I got it. I did the content. The schedule was extremely helpful. I'm someone who really does need accountability. It's something I've always struggled with, but we also had to do the journal entry. And that was also, I would be like, did people see I didn't do my journal entry today? I'm just really a little bit worried, but no, it's a really good way to, hold each other accountable. So that was probably my biggest thing. But if you stick with the schedule and if you're involved, you can't, I mean, the perfect quote that you sent in the email was, you can't buy a Peloton and hang your clothes on it and think something's going to happen. You have to, if you decide to do this program, which I promise you will not regret, you have to give it your all. You have to stick to the schedule to the best of your ability. And the content is there, even though you might not believe it right now, but these tips and tricks is what is going to make that content shine through, really.
There's a couple of things I want to touch on real quick, and thank you, Adriana, because I can't voice it as well. When I present that same talk, it sounds hokey, it sounds like nonsense, like you said, and you even you commented throughout in the group that you didn't believe me half the time, but then went ahead and played out and actually tried the stuff and tested it. And again, not everything in those 33 lessons is going to stick for every person. That's not realistic either. But you find the things that really do work for you, the things that bring you around. And one of the analogies I just got from this past weekend, my son had a new baseball coach over the weekend, and the guy was phenomenal. And he's 13 now, and and what he was teaching them was the next level stuff. So it was things like how to steal sign. If you're on second base, how to steal the sign from the catcher and relay it to the batter so he knows if a fastball or a curveball is coming. And there was a lot of stuff like that he was teaching them. And I was talking with him after the game, and he said, listen, if you know all this stuff, you don't have to be that good to win. And that's kind of my philosophy here. Not that I don't want you to be really, really good. Not that I don't want you to have incredible content knowledge. Not that I don't want you to be an incredible practitioner. I want all of those things for you. But there's so much more you can get out of what you've got than what you're getting. And that to me is the real big takeaway.
Yeah, that's huge.
And the other part was someone asked last night in the meeting about guarantees, if I offer a guarantee on this program. And the answer, the short answer is no. The long answer is, like Adriana said, if you join and you participate and you do what I ask you to do, I'm not worried about you. I don't think it will be a problem. On top of that, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not behind a big company. You guys all have my email address. I'm here with you, right? So if you play all out and you do the work you're supposed to do and things don't go well, we'll work it out. We'll figure it out. I actually have I think we're up to 5 people from the April cohort actually who have re-signed up to be in the June cohort, because a few of them, their tests were further out and they didn't play all out. They did some of the work, right? So then they're like, man, because like you said, life happens. Somebody got sick and wound up in the hospital. Somebody's mom had an issue. All kinds of things happen. But they said, you know what, I want to go through this again with you. It was so valuable and so important that I really want to be a part of this again. So I said, great, this will be fantastic. So we're up to, I think, 4 or 5 people who have gone ahead and are going to be part of the June cohort. So I'm really excited about that for them. Daniel was one of them because I know his test wasn't until September. So he was kind of in that mix to begin with, but looking to go through it. So that was kind of my point there, was that what you had said just about the participation part. I can't do it for you. I can give you a lot of cues. I can give you a lot of information. And that also goes with the studying part, right? There's a quote, I can't think of the exact quote now, but it was the quote was something along the lines of, he who does the work learns the lesson, right? No one's going to be able to hand you the content. No one's going to be able to hand you the medical knowledge. You're going to have to put in the work. You're going to have to put in the time. That's just the nature of the system, right? You don't get stronger by watching somebody do push-ups. You've got to actually do that. And that's part of what this group is for, is to kind of help you actually do that work yourself. So I'm excited. Like I said, I don't have the biggest downside to me right now is I don't have a ton of people who have gone through and actually taken their PANCE besides Adriana. The other person who responded to me went up 50 points. So that was also really exciting because, again, I don't see where those gains come up on medical content alone. Certainly that helps. Again, I don't want to downplay that, but that was really exciting. And then I'm super excited for Andy. I'm curious to see how he does on Thursday. And then I have a couple other people coming up soon. But yeah, so anyway, that's very much the presentation I wanted to offer you guys tonight. Very much what I wanted to share with you about what this program is, what it's about, how it can help you, the position it can put you in, and what my goals are for this program. Do you have and so at this point, I'd like to, there are a couple people in the chat. I didn't even notice it there. If you have questions, thoughts, concerns, anything I can help you with. Some people have been emailing me, but if I can have them in here, obviously that's better because I can share it with more people, or questions for Adriana would be really great too. Kushba's in here too.
Hi, Brian. Sorry, I'm like driving to go pick up a bike. But
all right.
I thought I would jump on here just to say hello and listen in. My test isn't till another month out. It's not till June. And I've been kind of debating back and forth on joining for this next cohort or not. But I did want to chime in and give my experience. If you give me like 2 minutes, I think that this program was tremendously helpful. And it's like you said, it's like Adriana said, the content is already there. And the way I think of it as when you're working out to build muscle, you've already done the heavy lifting with the program, with your program's giving you that information. That's the content. That heavy lifting you already. And what's offered in this program was what I like to call is like yoga and meditation to finesse some of those like fine skills that you kind of did with the heavy lifting, to stretch those muscles a little bit further, and to kind of tune and gauge yourself mentally and physically to get through such a beast of an exam. It's not a fun exam to take. I graduated in December. I took it in January, 3 weeks after I graduated, and I didn't pass. And so I was at my wit's end trying to figure out what is going on, because like Adriana probably was like, it's content. Like, I clearly missed a lot of stuff. It's definitely content. And when reviewing through what this program gave and going through the questions, from like my question banks, whether it be UWorld or Rosh, I've seen and noticed a difference in my scores just from those test banks that I've done. And granted, like UWorld, I never used before. Rosh, I had throughout my clinical year and didactic year to study with. So I was able to kind of use those stats from the past to kind of understand and gauge myself in the growth from the 33 days. And I've seen a significant difference and improvement of approaching those questions. Like, I look at these questions now and I don't have the heart palpitations. I don't have the anxiety of like, oh shoot, I don't know how to approach this because I don't know what it's really asking me. I take a deep breath and I look at it and I'm able to break it down and do the weighing option of saying like, I think this is maybe 30% correct. I feel a lot uncomfortable with this one, so I'm not going to like look at it at all. And it's helped me. I think it's those types of skills that isn't a part of the content that you get from this program. And it's tremendously helpful. You'll see the improvements if you do question banks from beginning to end. Like, it's pretty significant.
That's great. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on, Kush, but that's great. Yeah,
not a problem. Thank you for everything.
No, my pleasure. And I hope to see you again in June. We'll see how it goes. And maybe you guys can answer this, Adriana and Kushba, if you're still there. Morgan asked in the chat, are the lessons available from the beginning straight through? Meaning, could I move ahead if my test is scheduled before the end? Unfortunately, they're not. Not unfortunately. By design, they're not. And that's very purposefully done. And I know that's a little bit tough. I had a couple of people reach out to me who are taking their test in the middle of June. And the problem is, on my mind, is it's a process. It's exactly like I said about, the example I can give is actually where I got this scar from today. I've been stupidly, I've been working out more extensively since last October, and I've just been doing a lot of dumbbell stuff, Peloton stuff, and it's been going really well. And I was out for a walk today and my kid was at soccer practice, and I went over to the playground. I'm like, let me see if I could do some pull-ups. And without realizing it, I slammed my head into the pull-up bar because I wasn't used to being that, I guess, that strong. Not that I could do a bunch of them, but I was like, it was surprising. Literally, it was surprising to me. But it takes time, right? That didn't happen in one day of exercise. And it's the same with this. I could give you everything on day one. And I think Adriana said it before, you would go through it and be like, okay, good, okay, good, okay, good, okay, good. And you wouldn't do any of it. So although I could provide that to you, I would be doing you a disservice. I don't think I would be helping you at all. And Adriana, can you chime in on that for a second?
100%. Because like I said before, I had bought a package of yours a really long time ago. And there was some content in there that we also went over in 33 days, but I don't know what type of magic spell you do on 33 days. I had listened to it. I mean, it maybe had something to do with the fact that I failed the first time, but besides that point, there's something to be said with tacking on. They seem like little tasks, like the visualization is not a little task, but of course I can't pull something off the top of my head, but they seem like small things, his daily lessons, but to really absorb them and actually apply them, it kind of does take a lot of brain work, and you do have to be committed. If I were to get them all up front, which in a way I kind of did, not all of them, but when I bought a package a while ago, I did exactly what you said. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. It sounds cool, but there's no way it works. And so this program is really something you kind of just, when I tell you, like, just take it as it is, it will change. It will change. Like, it's dramatic, but it will change your life. Like, even just mindset in all settings of your life. This sounds so dramatic, but it's really true. Sometimes I would be like, to my partner, I'd be like, hey, come listen to this. Like, this is a really good point just to have. He's also a student. So I would be like, hey, like, for your test, this is a really important thing to think about. And if you were to have it all up front, it just wouldn't have the same effect. You wouldn't be able to apply it in the same way.
Yeah. And that's, like I said, I went through an argument with myself, trying to decide if that's something I wanted to do or and it just isn't going to work. I think I could sell it, but I don't think it would help you. And that's not something that I want to be, that's something I want to do. Right. I don't think that's something that makes a lot of sense. So unfortunately, the long answer and the short answer is no, it's not available from day one. You have to actually go through the process. And because I do want you to absorb each lesson, and there's a very distinct progression through those lessons, because I believe that you study a very specific way to take an exam. That's this kind of an exam. And I believe that you take the exam based on the way that you study. So it's very cyclical and they kind of play off of each other. And in order to get that to work, there's a very specific order that I did everything in, and that I'm going to do everything in for the June cohort. And again, just like Adriana said, if I gave you the list, you'd skip around through it and miss the ones that I think are probably the most important, because you'd see the titles and be like, I don't need that. This isn't going to work. But really going through those and then stepwise fashion is a big part of the key to why this worked so well. I need to take my PANRE in December and I have not started studying yet. Do you recommend waiting to the September to join, or do you do it in June? I would probably recommend you wait till September. It depends on where you're at and what you want to do. I definitely know some people who are still in school and felt like they got a lot out of this towards studying for their end of rotation exams. And it helped them a lot for that. So I don't think that's unreasonable, but I do think you'll miss out on what the group is doing, working toward that specific goal of passing the exam. So I think you'll kind of miss out on that part of it. So to me, I think it would make more sense for you to wait until September. Not that there aren't benefits for doing it now, but I think it's a better plan. When can we sign up? You can sign up right now at www.physicianassistantexamreview.com/33. I actually already have a surprisingly large cohort ready to go. People who have already registered, and I just opened it up to the community yesterday. So I'm starting to get to a point where I'm concerned about how many people I'm going to accept into it. We had 34 in the April cohort, and that worked out well. I was hoping, actually, when I launched the thing, to keep it to about 5 to 10, but I had a lot of people reach out and say, hey, can I get in? And I didn't want to tell people no. So I ended up making it significantly larger, which I think worked out great, because again, my own ego in the way I thought I was going to be the big part of it, the center part of it. And the answer is the group actually became the center part of it. So I think that number worked out really, really well, because it allowed us to have a really good group. Because like we said, you probably have a handful of people who don't participate, who fall out for one reason or another. But that number was really nice because it allowed everybody who wanted to participate to get something out of it, but also to share a lot of what they were doing and working on. So I'd like to keep it around there. I may go a little bit higher this time because I've done it before, so I may be able to handle a couple more people. But we are getting surprisingly closer to that number than I thought we would be in. So if you're interested, I would recommend signing up soon, because I don't think I'm going to make it to the end of May before I have to close it out. All right, Jasmine, I had the follow-up question from last night's discussion. I was wondering how long the sessions will be extended. Unfortunately, I'll not be able to make it July 1 to 3 because of my Jasmine, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me here. If you want to unmute and ask your question, or if you want to put it in the chat, either way is fine, but I don't quite get what you...
Oh yeah, sorry. I just joined in late. Last night, we discussed that the lessons are recorded and you extend the availability for a certain amount of time. I was just wondering what that availability is.
So what I did the first time around, I'll probably do something extremely similar this time around, is everything's is pre-recorded. Like I said at the beginning, I don't want to interfere with your day. I want you to be able to do it when you're ready to do it. Some people set their clocks by that and studied based off that. In fact, I got yelled at a couple of times that my emails went out late because that's when people would start their day. So some people set up very much around that schedule, that they would use them right at 8 o'clock in the morning and then move forward with that. Some people didn't, and then allows you to do it as you please. Same thing with the questions, with the live question sessions, right? Those will be recorded so you can get them later, and they stay inside the app, which you have access to. The April cohort, I gave them access through the end of May. I am going to have to pull their access to redo some things for the June cohort. And there'll be some things that happen in the same fashion. So my plan is to leave your access up for 60 days to all of that content. It will have to come down because then I have to get everything ready for the next cohort and the way that everything works on the back end. So that's a limiting factor for me. So that's all, but that will be there. You won't, if you're a couple of days behind or something, it doesn't disappear on you on the next day. I think today, actually, I just shut down the social part of the group, but nobody's been in there, Adriana, right? As soon as it ended, nobody really went back in. So it's fine. Nobody even will notice that I shut it down. But I went in and did that just today. So, but I do leave the video content up for you guys for a little bit longer than that. So you can go back and access that.
Hey, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
I kind of wanted to hear maybe from some people who did the cohort before, but I'm in my clinical rotations right now. So I'd be in the midst of a clinical rotation, and I know you set it up to where like you kind of do it at your own pace, but I'm still wondering, like, is this possible? I'm going to be in a surgery rotation. I really want to do it because I think I'm lacking the confidence more than anything, but I just want to be like real with myself. And I don't know if you have anyone else that went through it who's still in clinicals.
Adriana, you want to take this first, or Kushba, if you're still there?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I didn't do this while I was in my clinical, but I do have a side gig that I work. And so I would expect it to be very similar to that of you going to clinical rotation. So it's like Brian said, this is based on your schedule and how you want to get through the content on a day-to-day basis. There was like, I've over the course of the 33 days, I did have health issues that I was kind of struggling with, and I got set behind. And then I reworked my schedule to allow me to complete the work that I needed to do for my work, as well as cover the content that was missed. And so it's really based on the schedule that you set up for yourself and how to get through that material. Some of it's going to have an overlap with what you're studying with surgery and your surgery rotation and your end of rotation exam. So take that into consideration. But it's not something that it's not doable. The content that Brian delivers, it in itself will take probably, like you said, 30 to 45 minutes at most for you to review, and then the rest is practicing it. So it's not that it's not doable. It does take discipline, and it does take personal dedication to it, but it's definitely doable.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
I like the way that you said that. It takes some dedication and what was the word that she used? Personal dedication and discipline. But that's also a big part of what we're doing, is creating a situation where we're training for that essentially throughout this program and making it all work together. It can take a lot longer, or it can take a lot shorter. Some of it is how you plan out your day. Adriana, do you have anything you want to add to that? Or?
Yeah, I think, and you're not selling the 33 days like this, but if hypothetically you wanted to do your own schedule and let's say just study for your end of rotation for general surgery during this time and set up your own schedule, hypothetically speaking, the lessons would be extremely applicable to your, not only your end of rotation, but how you continue to go forward with your test taking skills, with your confidence during the test. Like, that was something I really struggled with my first PANCE. And so it absolutely would apply, I think. It is a little, because we do journal entries and talk about, we were supposed to cover like cardiology today. What did you cover in cardiology? Which obviously no one's like, well, oh, she only covered 2 topics. She's probably also studying something else. Like that's a little sketch. Like no one does that. But it would be a little off like in that sense, because there's a schedule that we're all trying to like hold each other accountable for. But the lessons that we learn throughout are extremely applicable in your life and definitely end of rotation as well. And you could also and he kind of mentioned this, but I did this a lot while driving. I would listen to his lessons, and there were some that I was like, shoot, like I want to go back to that point right there. And I would like screenshot the time. And then I would just go back that day. Like when I had time to sit down, I would usually take notes on what I took from that lesson. So driving to and from the rotation, you could definitely listen to the daily lessons too. So that would work as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I like about the delivery system is you have that option because it goes with you. You don't have to be sitting at your computer. So like she said, sometimes it's not the best option because some of the things I do want you a little more focused on, but when you're tight for time, there are ways to make it work a little bit better. Now, I will be quite honest with you. I definitely had, I think 2 or 3 people who are still in school, and they more or less said they couldn't keep up, and they sort of kind of faded out a little bit, and they started out really strong. And then they sort of said, you know what, this is more, more than I wanted to do. I also had 3 or 4, maybe 5 people who said this was great for my end of rotation exams. And it was super helpful. One of them was on the call last night, Andy, who he was in a situation where he had to pass his final end of rotation exam, or he was going to be kicked out of his program because he had already failed 2. So he wasn't even worried about the PANCE. He was like, I need to, this is everything, because if I get kicked out on my last test, right, this is devastating. Failing the PANCE sucks, but you can retake it. He was in a situation where that was not an option for him. So yes, like Adriana said, he talked about this last night, and you can find that call. I sent out the link for that this morning. He talked about rearranging the schedule so he wasn't following the same content schedule that we were, because that obviously didn't make sense for him to be on the same content schedule that we were. He then has since rearranged it and come back into that. But initially he said, listen, I don't care what your content schedule is. I'm going to be covering this stuff because this is what I need, but I am going to be keeping up with the group. I am going to be following through on everything that you're teaching. And I think he said he wound up getting his highest score on any end of rotation exam ever on that one. So that was really, really exciting. He was actually, Adriana, he beat you to it. He was my first success because of that. You were the first PANCE success, but he was Well, you're muted. I missed what you said.
Oh, sorry. That was really exciting because he posted that in the social layer. I'm like, that's another fun part about this is we get to celebrate successes with each other and kind of like pick each other up when something goes awry that we weren't expecting. And it was just a very supportive environment to be a part of. So that was a really beautiful benefit as well. And yeah, he posted he was the first success, but he can happily have that. We were all really excited for him.
Yeah, so that was great. So anyway, that's a decision. Unfortunately, that's a decision that I can't make for you, right? You're going to have to sort of, use the information that you have and decide if that makes sense for you or not. I think it depends on the kind of person you are, on how you think you can handle things, how you want to move forward. But like Adriana said, this is something that if you choose to go ahead and do it, to get the benefit, you'd have to do it, right? And that's going to be on you. You have to participate. You have to go through the lessons. And I do think that's very much an option for you if you're still in school, but you have to dedicate yourself to doing that. If you kind of say, oh, I'll try and do it, you won't, and don't sign up, because it just isn't where like I said, you'll last the first week, and then that'll be the end. And I don't want to see that happen, because that's just a mistake for you and for me. Quite honestly, I'd rather have you be in and do it or not, is very much the way that I feel about it. What else? Questions, thoughts?
Thank you very much. I appreciate this. I have to jump off, but it's kind of cool meeting you. So thanks.
Well, thank you. Have a great night. Thank you. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Hi, my name is Shannon. So I'm going to be graduating in like 2 days. So,
congratulations.
Thank you. So I want to take the PANCE soon, but I do have like test anxiety and stuff, like with standardized testing. So I was wondering, your lessons, do they like help with approaching the question? Like, are they mostly like focused on doing questions, or like, I feel like I'm just a little confused what these lessons like consist of.
All right, that's a completely fair question. That's why I wanted to do this live, and why I have trouble writing it down and sending it out in that sort of a format, is because you're 100% right, and you're not alone in that problem. And it's one of the reasons I brought Adriana on. I didn't know Kushba was here, but I'm thrilled that she is. And one of the reasons I was happy I had the two people the night before, because it's a little tough to explain. It's a little tough to get across. We do a lot of question walkthrough, descriptions, different approaches to test taking, different approaches to questions themselves, going over the different types of questions you will see, the different formats of questions, how to go through the question vignettes, how to go through the questions themselves, how to look at the answers, how to differentiate answers, and how to put yourself in the best position to get those questions right. The ones that you know, most importantly, but also the ones that you don't know. Like I said, it's a lot about shifting odds in your favor. That being said, like I said earlier, there's also some very specific styles for studying that I push early on that lead you to a place where you start to recognize questions as you get there. So I want you, and we do go through how to handle test questions very, we really do. That's a big chunk of it. But even before that, and that's why I like to do this all as one thing, and why it takes 33 days to kind of get through it, is because there's a big chunk before the actual questions of how you study, how you approach the information, how you separate the information in your brain. It's the best way I can describe it. How the way you categorize information as you study to set you up for this particular exam, to set you up to be able to see what's coming at you sort of before it comes, is a big part of what I believe. And that's why I said before, it's sort of a cyclical idea of how you study and how you take tests, and they go together. And then by doing that, and a few of the other exercises that I teach throughout this, is what puts you into that really good space once you get there, to feel comfortable that you've been here, you've done it, you've got the information that you need. Adriana, can you help me on that? Is there a better way that I can make it more clear for Shannon and everybody else here?
I hate to be this way, but it's like, you don't know until you know, and then you're really thankful you knew. But and he said it before, it's just, we know the content. It's really the approach. It's so many. I mean, I hate to call it like test taking skills, because back when we took like your ACT or SAT, there was test taking skills that we had to learn and whatever. But this is so much more than that. And they're lessons that I've actually continued even after the PANCE. Like, I'm still doing 64 ounces, 100%. I'm still doing 30 minutes outside. There's just so many, it puts you in a mindset to be able to grab all the content that you've learned over the years and actually apply it, and be confident in your answer, and be confident in the test, and like come out of the PANCE. I swear to God, come out of the PANCE smiling, skipping, and like thumbs up. Like, who does that? It's people who, I mean, like, I did.
I've taken it 3 times now, and I've been miserable every time I'm done.
To go from what I was before, and the content was there, but it was the lessons that we learned, the mindset, the taking the breaks, like that was huge for me. It's just all this, it's so much more than content. And I hate that I can't really describe it well for you. I'm sorry, but what I can tell you is that it's worth it. So,
yeah. And I try to use analogies to make it make a little bit more sense, and they all sort of fall a little bit flat. But it's understanding that there's a lot more to the whole game than what you're currently doing, I guess is the best, is a way to say it. Like, if you go to climb Mount Everest, right, and all you do is hike to get ready, well, you're not going to do that well, right? There's so many other aspects. Or you might do well if you're really in great shape. Maybe you will do really well, and you'll make up for the rest of it. Maybe that'll be great. But it's just a more well-rounded approach to the process, a more well-rounded approach to taking this test, a more well-rounded approach to studying, and like I said earlier, to being the best version of yourself when you show up that day, so that you're ready for that exam, and you can use the information that was there.
Brian, and to add to that, I think it's kind of like you said, it sounds like a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo at first, kind of like pie in the sky, or it's just very like arbitrary, like a ghostly type of thing that's there that's going to make you better. And it's a different approach in the sense that it's not having you memorize more information, but to build your mindset, build your endurance, build your confidence with the practice of the dailies that you get, the daily content you get, and then the daily activities that you're supposed to fulfill. And
I think I was just supposed to fulfill that.
I don't always fulfill them. 64 ounces is a lot for me. But, I get very close to it for the most part. But so those types of things, they help you build for the test and taking the test in the sense of actually physically taking the test mentally and physically, not so much content wise. So it's not like saying I'm going to get this question and Brian does some of it where we break down the questions and answering them, but it's not every single lesson is not focused around that. It's about building yourself, preparing yourself for the exam in itself. And it's like I said, it's like that stretching and the meditation that you don't get when you are in school that's supposed to build you to take the test and make you well-rounded.
Great. Thank you very much. Like I said, I really appreciate you two being on. All right, we're coming up on an hour, so I appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate your time. If nobody has anything else pressing, I'm going to respect your time. Like I said, my goal is to not interfere with your day. So I think at an hour, I've taken up enough of your precious time. Unless, again, if you have something specific that I can answer for you, I'm happy to. But if that's all that you got, then I think we'll let Adriana and Kushba go. And hopefully I'll see some of you in June.